What if I told you that roughly 99.9% of the effort you put into changing your life is actually being applied to the completely wrong part of reality?
I mean, I think most people would be pretty defensive hearing that, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But think about it. You want a promotion, so you just, work longer hours.
Right, you just grind harder.
Yeah, exactly. You want to get healthier, so you force yourself onto a treadmill at 5 in the morning. We treat life like this giant, stubborn mechanical engine.
Yeah, and we figure if we just push the levers hard enough, right?
Exactly. Push the levers, burn enough fuel, and the machine eventually just has to spit out the outcome we want.
Well, it makes complete sense why we operate that way, you know? It stems from this classic cause and effect model that we are basically marinated in from childhood.
Oh, for sure.
The idea is just strictly linear, like physical action equals physical result. It forms the entire basis of our modern culture. We practically worship the whole concept of the hustle, the grind, and just sheer willpower.
We really do. So today we are embarking on this massive, extensive audio exploration into a collection of anonymous personal development transcripts. And these documents completely dismantle that physical first approach.
They really tear it down to the studs.
They do. The mission for our conversation today is to unpack the hidden mechanics of reality creation that these texts talk about.
And it's not just a slight pivot in strategy, is it?
No, not at all. The
Yeah.
core argument here is that our physical actions are actually the least important part of the equation.
Which is wild to think about.
It's totally wild. The texts argue that it's our internal frequencies, like the invisible underlying energetic states we operate from, that actually dictate the lives we experience.
You know, the perspective offered in these documents, it requires a pretty profound shift in how we view effort.
Yeah.
They aren't suggesting that action doesn't matter. That's a huge misconception when people start talking about, frequency or mindset.
Right. They aren't saying just sit on the couch and do nothing.
Exactly. Instead, they argue that action taken from the wrong internal frequency is basically dead weight. It creates immense friction.
Friction is a great word for it.
Yeah, like the physical action might look correct on paper, but the invisible engine driving it is just completely flooded.
So let me set up a scenario to kind of ground this, because I think you, the person listening right now, are going to find this uncomfortably relatable.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Let's imagine someone who is doing absolutely everything, quote unquote, right according to the rules of the physical world. Let's call them the ultimate hustler.
Okay, I like that. The ultimate hustler.
So their alarm goes off at 4:30 in the morning. They are doing the cold plunges. They're grinding at work, putting in, 10 to 12-hour days consistently.
Oh, man, just nonstop.
Nonstop. They volunteer for every single miserable project that comes across their desk just to show initiative to their boss.
I can picture this person perfectly. And they are also probably consuming a staggering volume of self-improvement content just to maintain that crazy pace.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like listening to productivity audiobooks on double speed.
Exactly. During a stressful commute, no less. They're downloading habit tracking apps, trying to mathematically optimize every single second of their waking life.
Just trying to squeeze out a tiny bit more performance.
Right?
And they are doing all this because they are desperately trying to force a breakthrough. They want to force a promotion or, force a new bracket of income.
Or just force a total transformation in their lifestyle.
Yeah. They are hurling immense amounts of physical and mental labor right at the wall. But here is the central challenge the documents highlight. Despite all of this brutal physical effort, this person feels completely paralyzed.
They are completely overwhelmed.
Yes, they are running entirely on cortisol and caffeine. And nothing is actually shifting in their external reality.
Well, nothing except their baseline stress, which is skyrocketing.
Exactly. They are operating from a trench of deep chronic burnout.
Validating that frustration is so important because it's a nearly universal experience for high achievers.
It really is.
If we look at this through the lens of our source material, the ultimate hustler has fallen into a really specific, insidious trap.
What's the trap?
Well, they have confused the accumulation of information with actual transformation. And even worse, they've confused physical exhaustion with forward momentum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there is this brutal truth hidden in these texts. Burning out your engine does not mean you are winning the race.
Burning out your engine doesn't mean you're winning the race. Man, that hits hard.
It's sobering.
It really is.
Yeah.
So what's the alternative for our hustler? The source material kind of sets the stage by explaining the psychological and energetic mechanics of why this brute force method fails so predictably.
Right, and it starts with a concept that feels incredibly counterintuitive.
Yeah, especially for anyone raised in a culture of self-sacrifice. The transcripts demand that you become what they call selfishly healthy,
Taking that phrase apart is just crucial. The documents argue that you have to fill your own internal cup before you even attempt to pour into anything else.
meaning your career, your family, your goals.
Exactly. It sounds a bit like that standard airplane oxygen mask advice, right?
Put yours on first before helping others.
Yeah, but the mechanics they describe are intensely practical. They're rooted in how the autonomic nervous system actually functions.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, you simply cannot generate creative, reality-bending solutions if you are operating from a depleted, survival-based state. Your biology just won't allow it.
Okay, let me push back on that a little bit, though.
Yeah,
Because we are so conditioned to view prioritizing ourselves as arrogant or, selfish.
totally.
We're taught to be the ultimate team player, right?
Yeah.
To sacrifice our own sleep or our well-being for the sake of the quarterly goal. Are the sources genuinely saying that stopping everything to fix our internal baseline is a mandatory prerequisite for external success?
They state it unequivocally. There's no gray area. The advice is to always give from a state of overflow.
Overflows.
Right. When you do the internal maintenance, like calming the nervous system, actually resting, regulating your emotional baseline, your energetic capacity naturally overflows.
And that's what you give away.
Exactly. That overflow is what you are meant to give to the world, to your projects, to your team.
That make a lot of sense.
Think about the quality of the energy you bring to a task when you're exhausted versus when you are fully rested and inspired.
It's night and day.
It really is. When you force action from an empty state, your efforts are literally laced with resentment, desperation, and panic.
Yeah, you can feel it.
People can totally feel it. The argument here is that the surrounding environment, the people, the market, the opportunities, they don't respond to the mechanical action itself.
What do they respond to?
They respond to the underlying frequency of desperation driving the action.
I used to visualize this as trying to pour water for dinner guests from an empty pitcher. But honestly, based on what you're saying about friction and energy,
Yeah.
a better analogy is driving a car in the completely wrong gear.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like you are on the highway trying to go 70 miles an hour, but you are stuck in first gear.
Just revving the engine.
Exactly. You're pressing the gas pedal all the way to the floor. The engine is just screaming. The car is shaking violently. You're burning a massive amount of fuel, and you are sweating bullets behind the wheel.
But you aren't going any faster.
No. The physical effort is turned up to maximum, but your speed is capped. The texts seem to suggest that pulling over, stopping the car, and shifting the transmission is the only way to actually gain speed.
Even though stopping looks like you're losing progress to the outside world,
Right.
the transmission analogy captures the mechanical reality perfectly. The ultimate hustler feels incredibly guilty pulling over.
Because they think, if I just press the pedal harder, the car will eventually figure it out.
Exactly. But the internal mechanics just aren't aligned. Which brings us to another major trap the sources highlight.
The illusion of data gathering.
Yes. The illusion that gathering more information will somehow fix the transmission. Our hustlers reading a book a week, listening to all the right things, but their life looks exactly the same year after year.
I know so many people stuck in that exact loop. They are like professional consumers of self-help.
That's a great term for it. And the sources address this by explicitly stating that knowing a concept intellectually without physically and energetically embodying it is functionally identical to not knowing it at all.
Wow. Functionally identical.
Right. If the sheer volume of available information were the key to transforming our lives, anyone with a library card or a smartphone would have perfect mental health and unlimited resources.
Because the data is already out there. It's free.
Exactly. But true transformation, according to these transcripts, requires a fundamental shift in your neurological and energetic baseline, not just the rote memorization of some morning routine.
Okay, here is where the source material takes a massive leap, and it's a bit mind-bending, to be honest.
Yeah, it really scales up here.
The transcripts introduce this statistical concept to explain the true nature of our reality. They claim that the physical world, meaning absolutely everything we can see, touch, measure, and interact with using our five senses, makes up only a microscopic fraction of existence.
They use a very specific number, too.
They do. The specific figure of 0.00001%.
Which is just almost impossible to conceptualize.
It is.
While that exact decimal might be used as a bit of a rhetorical anchor to make a philosophical point, it actually aligns remarkably well with the principles of quantum physics that the texts reference.
Because matter is mostly empty space.
Exactly. Solid matter at a cellular and atomic level is almost entirely empty space. So the vast, overwhelming majority of reality, that 99.9%, is completely non-physical.
So it's mental and energetic.
It is purely vibrating potential.
So to bring it back to our ultimate hustler, this person is expending 100% of their life force trying to physically manipulate the 0.00001% of reality.
The part that is already dense and solidified.
Right, while totally ignoring the massive invisible machinery that is actually rendering the environment around them.
You can see why relying entirely on physical willpower is a statistically unwinnable battle.
Yeah, the math is just not in your favor at all.
Not at all. The sources summarize this dynamic with a brilliant, blunt phrase: environment beats will.
Environment beats will.
Yes. If your internal emotional environment and your external physical environment are chaotic, negative, or misaligned, your sheer force of will is absolutely guaranteed to collapse eventually.
Because willpower is a highly finite biological resource.
Exactly.
It's like sitting in a freezing cold room, surrounded by people complaining about how cold it is, and trying to use sheer willpower to feel warm and optimistic.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And eventually, the room's temperature is going to win. You are going to get cold.
The environment always wins because of a foundational principle these documents just hammer home. The outer world always follows the inner world.
The outer follows the inner.
Always. Your physical environment, your bank account, your relationships, they are all taking their cues from your inner, non-physical baseline.
So, attempting to change the outer world without fundamentally altering the inner world is just a fool's errand.
It is. It's akin to staring at a mirror and trying to change your reflection by aggressively scrubbing the glass with a towel.
Oh, that's a perfect visual. You can scrub all day, but the reflection won't change.
Right. The only way the reflection changes is if the object casting the reflection changes.
I love that mirror visual. But I want to dig into the actual physics of this, or at least the physics as the source material presents them.
Sure, let's get into the mechanics.
If the physical stuff we can touch is just a tiny fraction of reality, what exactly is the non-physical 99.9% made of? And how does it mechanically affect the physical world?
It's a fair question.
Because it's one thing to philosophically say the outer follows the inner, but I need to understand how the invisible actually dictates the visible.
Okay, so to grasp the mechanics, the texts ask us to look at the fundamental nature of matter. They introduce the concept that absolutely nothing is at rest.
Everything is moving.
Everything is vibrating. Even the solid oak desk you might be sitting at right now is composed of atomic structures that are in a state of constant rapid vibration.
So it's not actually solid.
Right. Physical matter in this framework is simply energy vibrating at a very dense, sluggish rate.
Let me make sure I'm following the logic here.
Yeah.
The higher and faster the vibration, the less visible and more energetic it is.
Correct.
And the slower and denser the vibration, the more solid and physical it appears to our senses.
That's the core premise. And building on that, the sources conceptualize human beings as three-part systems.
Okay, what are the three parts?
We are not just a physical body. We are physical, we are mental, and we are emotional or spiritual.
Let's define those buckets clearly for everyone listening.
Sure.
The physical is the body, the actions, the stuff we can measure. The mental is our cognitive thoughts, the inner monologue, the images we sort of project on the screen of our minds.
Exact.
And the emotional or spiritual part is our energy and motion, our feelings, our nervous system states, our connection to consciousness itself.
You've got it. And the critical point the documents make is that these three planes are not isolated silos operating independently.
They aren't separate.
No, they are bound by the principle of correspondence.
What does that mean exactly?
It means an event on one plane immediately and inevitably triggers a corresponding reaction on the others. They are locked in a state of instantaneous communication.
This is a concept you can actually test right this second.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're listening, try physically slouching your shoulders forward, dropping your chin to your chest, taking incredibly shallow breaths. And then, while staying in that posture, try to mentally conjure a feeling of absolute invincibility and joy.
It's mechanically almost impossible.
It really is. The physical posture actively blocks the mental and emotional state. But if you stand up, pull your shoulders back, breathe deeply, and smile, your mental clarity and emotional state correspond immediately to that physical geometry.
The shift happens in real time,
Right.
and the correspondence runs in every direction. If you sit still and intentionally cultivate a mental thought of profound gratitude, so activating the mental plane, you will begin to feel a distinct warmth or lightness in your chest on the emotional plane.
Yeah, you feel it physically.
And your physical biology will respond by lowering your heart rate and relaxing your facial muscles on the physical plane. This three-way communication is happening 24 hours a day.
Which leads to a concept in the transcripts that I found absolutely staggering.
What's that?
They argue that your current physical reality, like the specific job title you hold today, the exact amount of money in your bank account right now, the specific arguments you are having in your relationships, is nothing more than your energetic history.
Your energetic history, yes.
Can you explain the mechanism at play here?
The mechanism is lag time. Because physical matter is dense, remember, it's that slow vibrating, sluggish energy we talked about. It requires a buffer of time for your non-physical thoughts and feelings to condense and materialize into physical circumstances.
The mental blueprint has to slow down enough to become solid.
Exactly.
Wait, let me stop you because I want to make sure I'm fully absorbing this. Are the documents literally saying that the terrible, frustrating Tuesday I'm experiencing right now, or, the incredibly messy apartment I'm standing in,
Yeah.
was essentially placed on order by my brain weeks or months ago?
In a very literal sense, yes.
Wow.
The circumstances you are dealing with today are merely the delayed printouts of your historical mental states.
Delayed printouts.
Yes. If you consistently held a dominant frequency of stress, lack, or chaotic scrambling in the past, eventually the dense physical world organized its slow-moving matter to reflect that exact frequency back to you.
So you are basically walking around inside the fossilized remains of your old thoughts.
The fossilized remains, that is beautifully put.
It makes me think of astronomy, actually.
How so?
Well, when you look up at the night sky and see a star, you aren't seeing that star as it exists right this second.
Right, because of the speed of light.
Exactly. You are seeing the light it emitted millions of years ago that is just now hitting your retina. The star itself might have already exploded and died.
That's a profound analogy.
When we look at our current daily lives, we are just staring at the starlight of our past mental habits.
The starlight analogy perfectly illuminates a massive psychological trap the sources warn against.
Oh, that's the trap.
When we look at our current negative physical reality, say, a bank account that is aggressively overdrawn, or a project that just failed, our immediate, deeply ingrained instinct is to react to it emotionally.
Oh, of course. We flood our system with fear, panic, and a feeling of scarcity.
Exactly.
I see the trap. If I look at the delayed printout, the overdrawn account, and I react with intense panic today, what am I actually doing to the system?
You are sitting down and placing a brand new, expedited order for more panic and more scarcity in your future.
I'm just reordering the exact same meal.
Yes, you are staring at a historical receipt of your past stress, getting stressed about it, and telling the reality creation engine, yes, I'd like another large order of exactly this, please.
That is terrifying.
It is, and this is the precise reason why it is so excruciatingly difficult for people to break out of generational poverty or chronic cycles of bad relationships.
You're constantly reacting to the old evidence.
They are constantly emotionally reacting to the physical evidence of their past, which biologically and energetically guarantees it becomes their future.
I feel like we need to pause on that because it just flips everything upside down.
It really does.
We have to stop treating the physical circumstances around us as if they were the ultimate unchangeable truth and start viewing them as historical artifacts.
Yes, they are just echoes.
But I have to play the skeptic here for a second. For someone who demands hard empirical evidence, who won't just take a philosophical concept on faith, do the sources offer any tangible proof that invisible thoughts or frequencies can actually reach out and restructure solid physical matter?
They do. The authors of the transcripts anticipate that exact skepticism, and they bring forward two profound, highly visual examples to demonstrate how frequency alters the architecture of matter.
Okay, let's get into these.
The first involves the scientific study of sound waves interacting with physical particles. It's a field known as cymatics.
Oh, the sand on the metal plate experiment. The visual of this is so striking. Break down exactly how this works mechanically for the listener.
The setup is relatively simple. Researchers take a flat metal plate, often called a Chladni plate, and sprinkle a fine, random layer of sand across the surface.
Just totally chaotic sand.
Right. They then hook the plate up to a frequency generator and pump pure, specific audio tones through the metal.
And sound is entirely invisible to the naked eye.
Completely invisible. It is purely vibrational energy moving through a medium. But the moment the tone begins to play, the chaotic, scattered sand on the plate begins to move as if it's alive.
It self-organizes.
Exactly.
And it doesn't just shuffle around into random piles either. Depending on the exact frequency, the sand sharply arranges itself to incredibly complex, perfectly symmetrical, mathematically stunning geometric mandalas.
It's beautiful to watch.
And the craziest part is the transition. When they turn the dial and change the audio tone, the beautiful sand mandala instantly scrambles back into utter chaos for a split second before snapping sharply into a completely new, vastly different geometric pattern.
The heavy, physical sand is literally bowing to the invisible frequency in real time.
The architecture of the physical sand is 100% dictated by the invisible tone passing through it.
You change the invisible frequency, you change the physical structure, it's undeniable.
Wow.
And the second experiment, detailed in the texts, takes this mechanic a step further, moving away from simple audio tones and examining the energetic frequencies of human intention and language.
This is the famous water crystal experiment, right?
Yes, it is.
And considering the human body is roughly 70% water, the implications here hit incredibly close to home.
They absolutely do. The documents describe a study where researchers took identical samples of water and exposed them to different environmental stimuli.
Like what kind of stimuli?
Well, some samples were exposed to spoken words, some had typed words physically taped to the glass containers, and others were exposed to different genres of music. After the exposure, they froze the water droplets and examined the resulting ice crystals under powerful microscopes.
I know this study gets debated a lot by skeptics regarding peer review protocols, but if we look at the premise the documents are presenting, the results claimed are like night and day.
Completely polarized.
When the water was exposed to high-frequency concepts, words like love, appreciation, or gratitude, it froze into these brilliant, coherent, highly complex hexagonal structures.
They look like the most flawless, intricate snowflakes you could ever imagine.
Right. Conversely, when the water samples were exposed to low-frequency concepts, words of hate, anger, disgust, or phrases like, I will kill you, the frozen structures failed to form any coherent geometry at all.
They were fragmented.
Fragmented, chaotic, completely asymmetrical, and visually quite ugly. They look like muddy, broken, diseased blobs.
The source material argues this happens because the molecular structure of the water is physically rearranging itself to match the energetic resonance of the intention directed at it.
Let's follow the logic of the source material here. If simple, invisible audio tones can force solid sand into geometric perfection, and if spoken words or even written intentions can completely restructure the molecular behavior of water crystals.
What on earth are 60,000 to 80,000 daily thoughts doing to the physical, biological structures of our own bodies?
Exactly. That is the pivotal, terrifying question the texts want the reader to confront.
If you are walking around internally repeating a loop of, I am exhausted, I am failing, I hate my life, I can't do this, 50,000 times a week.
You are pumping a highly chaotic, fragmenting, low-level frequency directly into a physical vessel that is mostly water.
You are actively, continuously degrading your own structural and biological coherence.
But the documents also highlight a really hopeful, redemptive part of that water crystal study, don't they? They mention a real-time intervention experiment.
They do. In one instance, researchers took a sample of highly polluted, chaotic water. It was water from a dam that consistently produced those ugly, fragmented, broken blobs when frozen.
Right.
They then gathered a group of people to focus positive, concentrated intentions on the sample, actively sending feelings of deep gratitude and love toward this chaotic water for a sustained period.
And the claim is that when they froze that exact same sample again, the chaotic, broken structure had completely vanished.
It had completely reformed itself into a beautiful, coherent, geometric crystal.
That's incredible. The underlying lesson the documents extract from this is that a negative energetic history can be rewritten quickly.
Yes. Physical matter is highly responsive.
It is not locked into its past state permanently.
Exactly, provided you introduce a sufficiently powerful, sustained new frequency.
It reminds me of sitting in a coffee shop using the Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
You can't see the Wi-Fi signal, you can't touch it, smell it, or taste it. You can wave your hand through the air above your table and feel absolutely nothing.
Right, it's totally invisible.
But that invisible signal is actively pulling down heavy, dense, complex files, like Entire 4K movies, massive PDF documents, software updates, and it's materializing them right onto your physical hard drive.
The invisible signal completely determines the physical download.
Yes. The transcripts essentially describe the human mind as a highly advanced biological receiver and transmitter operating in a very similar fashion.
Which brings us to a massive logistical problem.
Uh-oh. What's the problem?
If our thoughts are constantly broadcasting these matter-altering signals, how do we actually take control of the broadcast? Because right now, for the average person, the internal radio station is just playing a mix of static, anxiety, and bad news on a loop all day long.
Yeah, and we can't just unplug the router. The sources refer to this as the state of infinite action.
Infinite acts.
We are broadcasting an energetic signal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from the moment we are born until the moment we die. There is no pause button.
You can't casually tell the universe, hey, I'm going to have a massive panic attack about my mortgage for the next 2 hours. Please pause the reality creation rendering process until I'm done.
You are always transmitting.
Always, which means you are always ordering a future reality.
So this leads directly to the absolute necessity of what the transcripts term a mental diet.
Yeah.
Everyone understands the fundamental logic of a physical diet, right?
Yeah.
If you eat highly processed junk food, refined sugars, and toxic fats every single day, your physical body becomes sluggish, inflamed, lethargic, and eventually diseased.
The physical input creates the physical output.
Exactly. But we are completely blind to our energetic diet.
Yeah.
Think about the average morning. A person wakes up, grabs their phone before their feet even hit the floor, and immediately scrolls through a feed of social media outrage, political tribalism, and terrifying global news headlines.
Then they go to work and engage in petty office gossip.
Right. And they end the night watching a highly stressful, violent, or anxiety-inducing television show right before trying to sleep.
And then they wonder why they feel terrible,
Yeah.
why their nervous system is fried, and why their external life feels chaotic and unmanageable.
The input is all junk.
The crucial psychological concept to understand here is energetic transference.
Energetic transference.
The texts argue that absolutely everything you read, watch, listen to, or interact with possesses its own specific frequency signature. And when you engage with it, it transfers that signature to you.
So everything leaves a fingerprint on your frequency.
Everything.
The sources clarify that a mental diet isn't merely about reducing the sheer volume of information you consume. It's about evaluating the energetic quality and depth of engagement.
That's a great distinction.
Sitting quietly and reading 3 pages of profound, elevating philosophy and truly absorbing it into your emotional state has a vastly higher, more beneficial energetic transference than speed reading 50 articles about a celebrity scandal or an economic crisis.
It's quality over quantity, energetically speaking.
Let's break down the practical application of this, because it's one thing to say think positive thoughts, but we are bombarded by thousands of thoughts a day.
Many of which seem to pop up completely uninvited.
Exactly. It feels impossible to police all of them. The documents introduce this fantastic visualization strategy to manage this influx, the bouncer at the doorway of the mind.
I love this concept. It is an incredibly vital psychological tool because most people make a critical error.
What's the error?
They falsely identify with every single thought that enters their consciousness. They operate under the assumption, I thought it, therefore it is inherently part of me and it must be true.
But the perspective offered in these texts argues that a significant portion of the thoughts in your head do not actually belong to you.
They belong to your environment.
That makes so much sense. If you are standing in a crowded break room full of coworkers who are bitterly complaining about company layoffs and an impending recession, thoughts of profound financial ruin and panic are going to pop into your head.
Simply because your biological receiver is picking up the dominant Wi-Fi signal of that specific room.
You receive the thought, certainly. You observe it in your consciousness. But the distinction the bouncer technique makes is that you do not have to claim ownership of it.
You don't have to attach your personal identity or your emotional weight to it.
I picture this mind bouncer as a massive, intimidating, sharply dressed security guy standing outside the velvet rope of an exclusive VIP club. And the club represents your subconscious mind.
Okay, I can see it.
A thought walks up to the door. Let's say it's a thought of sheer terror about missing a client deadline.
A very common visitor.
Right. The bouncer stops it, demands to see its ID, looks closely at the guest list, and says, Sorry, Tara, you are not on the list tonight. We are only letting in constructive problem solving and calm focus. You need to turn around and keep walking.
It's a highly effective way to actively disidentify from negativity.
Yeah.
When a disruptive thought arises, instead of spiraling into it, you pause, observe it objectively as a separate entity, evaluate its energetic quality, and make a conscious executive decision about whether to grant it entry into the fertile soil of your subconscious mind.
You literally develop the habit of saying internally, no, that thought does not serve my ultimate aim. Access denied.
Access denied. I like that.
But let me throw a wrench into that strategy.
Real.
What happens when your physical environment is inherently toxic? What if you are surrounded by negative peers, a hypercritical boss, and cynical family members?
That's tough.
What if the VIP line outside the club isn't just one or two bad thoughts, but hundreds of toxic thoughts actively trying to rush the door all day long?
The bouncer's is going to get completely overwhelmed.
Exactly. How do you practically handle that level of environmental pressure?
The texts acknowledge that exact vulnerability. A bouncer can only do so much if the club is located in a fundamentally dangerous neighborhood.
Right.
This is precisely why the sources advocate relentlessly for aggressively curating your physical and social environment, specifically through the creation of a mastermind group or a highly vetted peer circle.
It's the old adage that if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room, but applied to energy.
It goes much deeper than just intellectual intelligence. It's about the baseline frequency of the collective.
Okay.
The scientific concept at play here is entrainment. It's the tendency for two oscillating bodies to lock into phase so that they vibrate in harmony.
Like pendulum clocks syncing up.
Exactly like that. If you intentionally surround yourself with people who naturally operate at a much higher vibrational baseline, people who are deeply optimistic, radically action-oriented, emotionally resilient, and relentlessly supportive, you benefit immensely from their energetic transference.
You entrain to their higher frequency.
They literally pull your baseline up automatically, which requires significantly less conscious willpower on your part to maintain a strict mental diet.
It's the ultimate reality creation life hack. You outsource a portion of your frequency maintenance to a highly curated group of elevated individuals.
That's brilliant.
Okay, so let's assume our ultimate hustler has done this foundational work. They've cleaned out the mental junk food, the bouncer is actively working the door, and they've distanced themselves from the cynical coworkers.
They stop the bleeding.
They stop the bleeding. But playing defense doesn't actually build the new reality. How do we switch to offense? What is the exact mechanical process to actively program the specific future we want?
This brings us to the centerpiece of the documents. It's a highly specific, strictly structured protocol that transitions the practitioner from passive meditation into active visualization.
I feel like we need to redefine visualization right out of the gate, because that word carries so much cultural baggage.
Oh, absolutely.
When most people hear it, they think of casually daydreaming about winning the lottery or staring at a vision board covered in magazine clippings of sports cars.
Mhm.
But the process outlined here is deeply methodical.
It is incredibly rigorous. The protocol dictates a daily, dedicated practice, typically lasting 30 minutes, broken into two distinct, non-negotiable phases.
What's the first phase?
Step 1 consists of 10 minutes of strictly passive meditation.
And what exactly are we doing or not doing in those first 10 minutes?
You are doing absolutely nothing regarding your future goals or desires. You are simply focusing on your breath, observing your bodily sensations in the present moment, and actively calming the physical organism.
Okay, but why?
The biological objective here is to forcibly lower your brainwave state.
Lower the brainwaves.
The texts explain that throughout our normal, busy day, we operate in a high-frequency beta brainwave state, which is associated with alertness, logic, and often stress and anxiety.
Right.
The goal of the passive phase is to downregulate the central nervous system, shifting the brainwaves down into a relaxed alpha state or even a deeper theta state.
The sources are militant about this passive step. They explicitly state it is non-negotiable. But I want to know why. If our ultimate hustler only has 20 minutes before they have to leave for work, why can't they just skip the breathing exercises and jump straight into visualizing the promotion?
Because trying to fundamentally rewrite your subconscious programming while your nervous system is flooded with cortisol and operating in a frantic beta state is biologically impossible.
Impossible.
Biologically impossible. Beta waves evolve to keep us alive in dangerous situations. They narrow our focus strictly to immediate physical threats in the external environment. They shut down the creative, expansive centers of the brain.
That makes total sense.
Attempting to visualize a beautiful, abundant future while in survival mode is like trying to tune a delicate radio receiver to a classical music symphony, while the main dial is superglued to a heavy metal station playing at maximum volume.
The frequencies just cannot coexist.
Exactly.
I see the mechanical problem. If you try to visualize the promotion while you are stressed about not having the promotion, you aren't actually visualizing abundance.
No, you're not.
You are infusing the mental image of the new office with the energetic signature of sheer desperation and lack. And based on everything we've discussed, the universe responds to the underlying feeling of lack, not the superficial picture of the office.
That is the exact point of failure for most people who try to use visualization. The passive meditation phase acts as an energetic palate cleanser. It prepares the neurological soil.
Okay, so you've done the 10 minutes.
Once you have successfully lowered the brainwaves and calmed the nervous system, basically proving to your biology that you are safe, you then transition into step 2,
Which is?
20 minutes of active visualization.
And the rules provided for this active phase are fascinating and highly specific. The text explicitly warns against visualizing a long, sprawling, complex movie of your entire future life.
Right, no feature films.
You aren't supposed to imagine waking up, driving the new car to the new job, having a great meeting, and coming home to a perfect family. You are instructed to create a single, highly concentrated scene that lasts only 10 to 20 seconds long.
You build a very brief, highly emotionally charged loop, and you play it over and over again.
Let's dig into the why behind this, because my immediate instinct, if I have 20 full minutes to sit there with my eyes closed, is to let my imagination run wild and build an entire cinematic universe of my future.
Most people want to do that.
Why restrict the mind to a tiny 10-second loop?
It comes down to the intensity of neurological focus required to spark neuroplasticity. The sources use the analogy of watering seeds in a garden. If you have a single bucket of water, which represents your finite daily reservoir of focused energetic attention, and you scatter that water lightly over 50 different seeds representing a long, sprawling movie, the water spreads too thin.
None of the individual seeds receive enough deep saturation to actually break open and germinate.
Exactly. But if you take that entire heavy bucket of water and pour it relentlessly onto one single specific seed,
It germinates rapidly.
by looping the exact same 10 to 20 second scene repeatedly, you force the brain to fire the exact same neural pathways over and over. In neuroscience, this repeated firing coats the pathway in a substance called myelin, which thickens and strengthens the connection until it becomes the brain's new default superhighway.
As you loop the scene, it crystallizes.
You move past the blurry concept and start to notice the intricate texture of the environment, the specific smells in the room, the exact ambient sounds. The scene becomes incredibly vivid, dense, and heavy with reality.
And there are strict criteria for how this scene must be constructed. First, it absolutely must be viewed in the first person.
Very important point.
You are not watching yourself on a movie screen like an actor. You are looking out through your own eyes, seeing your own hands.
Yes.
Second, the scene must imply that the goal is already completely achieved and in the past.
The scene should represent a celebratory moment occurring immediately after the final victory.
Give us an example.
If your goal is landing a massive new client, the scene is not you sitting in a boardroom delivering a stressful pitch. The scene is you sitting at a restaurant afterward, looking through your own eyes, clinking a glass of champagne with your partner, feeling the cold condensation on the glass, hearing them say, "I'm so proud of you for closing that deal," and feeling the immense physical relief of the victory.
That intersection of thought and feeling is what the text referred to as this sweet spot.
The sweet spot is the exact fleeting moment when the vivid images generated in your mind synchronize flawlessly with the profound emotions generated in your heart.
We mentioned earlier that emotion is energy in motion.
The mental image provides the steering wheel and the destination, but the intense emotion provides the actual gasoline for the engine. When you genuinely feel the overwhelming joy, relief, or gratitude of the wish fulfilled in the present moment, you are transmitting a massive, coherent electromagnetic signal into the quantum field.
The transcript uses a brilliant car analogy to summarize this entire 30-minute protocol.
Remind me of that one.
The 10 minutes of passive meditation is taking the necessary time to pull the car into the garage, put gas in the tank, check the oil levels, and properly inflate the tires.
Okay.
The 20 minutes of active visualization is the act of actually driving the car onto the highway toward your destination. If you skip the passive part because you're impatient, you are trying to drive a broken-down car with 4 flat tires and an empty gas tank. You aren't going anywhere, no matter how furiously you stomp on the accelerator.
That's spot on. And here is the most profound, controversial claim made by the sources regarding this protocol. They state that 1 single hour of this deeply aligned, sweet spot inner work is the equivalent of 5 to 10 hours of blind, stressful physical hustling.
I have to stop you there, because my inner hustler is screaming. That claim sounds incredibly dangerous.
It does sound like a trap.
It sounds like the ultimate excuse to just sit cross-legged on the couch, do absolutely nothing, and ignore all my deadlines while expecting a bag of money to fall through the ceiling. If I just meditate, the 50-page report my boss needs by Friday doesn't magically write itself.
Yeah.
How does this actually apply to the harsh physical realities of deadlines and labor?
It's a vital pushback. The texts are not advocating for passive delusion. The physical report still has to be written.
Yeah.
The difference lies in the quality and efficiency of the action taken. Because you are dealing with the 99.9% of reality, the energetic blueprint, rather than fighting the 0.0001% of dense physical matter, you are rearranging the architecture before you build. Okay.
When you do the inner work consistently, the neural pathways are built and the frequency is set. Consequently, when you sit down to write that report, the words flow effortlessly. You experience sudden bursts of insight. You make a single phone call that solves a problem that would have previously taken 10 hours of grinding to fix.
The physical actions you take become highly inspired.
Inspired, hyper-efficient, and deeply serendipitous rather than forced, anxious, and exhausting. You stop swimming against the current and find the path of least resistance.
Okay, I follow the logic. So our hustler commits. They do the inner work, they calm the nervous system, lower their brainwaves, water the single seed of their vision, hit the sweet spot of emotion, and they feel absolutely incredible. They are vibrating at a high frequency.
And then they walk out their front door, get in their car, and the transmission completely drops out. Or they walk into the office and get unexpectedly laid off. Or their romantic partner of 5 years suddenly packs up and leaves. Things start going spectacularly, explosively wrong in their physical life. Why? Did the visualization backfire? Did they do the technique wrong?
This is perhaps the most heavily misunderstood, agonizing phase of the entire reality creation process.
It's the demolition phase.
And the documents warn that if you do not deeply understand the universal principles of polarity, rhythm, and continuity, you will panic and abort the entire mission right when you are on the precipice of massive success.
Let's break those universal laws down carefully. Start with the principle of polarity.
The principle of polarity states that things that appear as absolute opposites are, in reality, the exact same thing, simply manifesting at different degrees on the same spectrum.
Give me an example.
The classic example is hot and cold. They aren't different things. They are both simply measures of temperature. Move the dial one way, you get heat. Move it the other, you get cold. Right.
Similarly, fear and courage are the exact same thing. They are both states of intense emotional arousal regarding risk and the unknown.
So if a person is experiencing paralyzing, extreme fear about their future, they aren't actually broken.
No. Well,
They are just vibrating at the extreme low end of the exact same spectrum as extreme courage. They just need to actively slide the internal dial.
precisely. You shift the degree, not the substance. And that ties directly into the principle of rhythm.
What's rhythm?
Rhythm dictates that absolutely everything in the universe operates on a pendulum swing. Everything has a natural ebb and a flow. The ocean tide goes out and the tide comes in. The barren darkness of winter always inevitably turns into the explosive growth of spring.
The human problem is that we only want the flow. We want the eternal spring. We want the massive harvest, the new money, the perfect relationship, the constant upward trajectory.
And we deeply resent and fight the ebb.
We hate the planting phase, the stillness, the darkness, the feeling of regression. But the source has emphasized that you must honor and trust the ebb just as much as the flow, because one cannot exist without the other. Think about planting a physical seed in the dirt. You put it in the dark ground, cover it up, and for weeks, nothing visibly happens on the surface.
It looks dead.
If you lack trust and you dig up the seed every single day to yell at it and demand to know where your beautiful flower is, You will kill the seed through your own anxious interference. You have to trust the dark, quiet, invisible phase of gestation.
Which perfectly sets up the most critical concept for our ultimate hustler to hear, the necessity of embracing the chaos and understanding the law of continuity. I think this explains the car breaking down and the sudden job loss.
It explains it entirely. When you fundamentally upgrade your internal frequency through consistent inner work, when you shift from a baseline of survival and lack to a highly coherent, energetic signature of abundance, peace, and success, you create a massive structural problem.
How so?
Your external physical world is currently constructed out of materials that match your old low frequency.
The outer world is suddenly deeply out of alignment with the inner world.
Yes, and because the universe operates on a strict, self-correcting law of balance and harmony, the external physical environment must actively restructure itself to match your newly established inner frequency. And here is the brutal truth. Physical restructuring almost always looks exactly like catastrophic chaos.
It looks like pure destruction.
It is destruction. The old structures must fall. Old friends who deeply resonate with your former complaining victim mentality self will suddenly cause massive conflict or drift away because the frequencies repel each other.
That makes sense.
A job that kept you playing small might suddenly and unfairly terminate you. The systems holding your old, limited life together will buckle and collapse under the pressure of your new energy.
I picture this entire process like a massive home renovation.
Oh, that's a good one.
Imagine you've been visualizing this gorgeous, modern, open-concept kitchen for months. You've done the inner work, you've felt the joy of cooking in it. Then, one Tuesday, you come home from work, open your front door, and there are 5 guys in hard hats swinging sledgehammers, completely destroying your house.
Dust everywhere.
There's toxic dust everywhere, there are gaping holes in the floorboards, pipes are leaking, and you don't even have a sink to wash your hands in. If you don't understand the mechanics of what is happening, you will look at the demolition, fall to your knees and scream, "My life is ruined." The visualization technique completely backfired.
But the destruction is a mandatory, unavoidable phase of the physical upgrade. You physically cannot install the beautiful new custom cabinets while the old, rotting, moldy ones are still bolted to the wall.
You need the demolition.
The documents use a brilliant theatrical metaphor to explain this. The scriptwriters—
I love this metaphor. Walk us through it.
Imagine there is a team of universal scriptwriters managing the grand stage play of your life. By upgrading your internal frequency and doing the active visualization, you just handed these writers a brand new, high-level, incredibly exciting script for your future. But there's a logistical problem.
What's the problem?
The physical stage of your life is currently cluttered with actors and props left over from the old, depressing, low-budget script.
And the law of continuity means the writers can't just snap their fingers, violate the laws of physics, and make the old actors vanish in a puff of magical smoke.
Exactly. Physical reality has density and rules of continuity. So the scriptwriters have to naturally and organically write out the old, low-frequency characters. They have to manufacture sudden plot twists, like a breakup or a firing, to remove the old pops from the stage, making physical room to introduce the new characters and storylines that actually match your upgraded frequency.
And during that messy transition phase, the play looks like a complete disaster to the audience. Characters are arguing, sets are being dragged off stage, the lighting is flickering, things are falling apart in real time.
And this transition phase is where 99% of people fail the test.
They quit.
They look around at the demolition, they see the chaos, they completely panic, and they immediately drop their internal frequency back down to sheer terror, victimhood, and lack.
So what happens then?
When they do that, the universal scriptwriters look at the new frequency and say, "Oh, never mind, they got scared. They want the old script back. Stop the demolition. Tell the crew to nail the rotting cabinets back onto the wall."
They abort the reality creation process right in the middle of the demolition phase, and they are left living permanently in the rubble of their own panic.
It's tragic.
So the million-dollar question is, how do you practically not panic when the sledgehammers are actively swinging in your life? How do you stay calm when you just lost your job?
The psychological advice from the transcripts is a concept called lowering the significance. This means you must care deeply about your ultimate goal, what they call your definite chief aim, without pedestalizing it. You must systematically remove the desperate, clinging energy from your desire.
You can't have a white-knuckled life-or-death grip on the outcome. You can't walk around thinking, if I don't get this specific promotion at this specific company by Friday, my entire life is meaningless and I am a failure.
Because that level of white-knuckled desperation is, at its core, a massive broadcast of lack.
It pushes it away.
It screams to the universe that you do not currently have the thing, and you are terrified you never will. You have to hold your preference lightly. And more importantly, to survive the demolition phase, you must root yourself deeply in what the sources call your knowingness.
Your knowingness, what does that actually feel like biologically and emotionally?
It is a profound, quiet, unshakable certainty that transcends all current physical logic. When your analytical mind is screaming that everything is falling apart and the external evidence points to total ruin, your knowingness is the quiet anchor whispering that everything is actually falling perfectly into place.
It's pure trust.
It is an active, practiced trust that we live in a fundamentally friendly, benevolent universe that is conspiring heavily in your favor, even and especially when the immediate physical evidence suggests the exact opposite.
You essentially have to train yourself to trust the sledgehammers.
You have to trust the sledgehammer.
Wow.
Because every wall they knock down is simply making the necessary physical room for the expansive new reality you explicitly ordered.
Wow. Okay, let's bring this entire massive journey full circle. Let's think back to the ultimate hustler we introduced at the very beginning of the hour.
The one running on cortisol and caffeine.
Yeah. The person setting the punishing alarms, grinding out the brutal 12-hour days, constantly burning out, and treating the world like a heavy, immovable mechanical object that has to be fought and conquered.
If that person can pause the treadmill long enough to truly internalize the mechanics presented in these sources, their entire paradigm shifts.
Right.
They realize they are not a fragile, purely physical meat suit trapped in a random, punishing, chaotic world.
They realize they are a powerful, spiritual, and energetic architect, currently navigating a highly responsive physical sandbox. True power doesn't come from gritting your teeth, destroying your nervous system, and trying to force the solid matter of the world to bend to your physical will.
True power comes from stepping back, tending meticulously to your inner emotional environment, mastering the broadcast of your internal frequency, and allowing the dense outer world the necessary time to naturally arrange itself to match.
It's a profound evolution from forceful, exhausting manipulation to magnetic, effortless alignment.
It's having the wisdom to fill the pitcher before you try to pour.
It's doing the quiet inner work, utilizing the mind bouncer to reject toxic inputs, hitting that sweet spot of heart-brain coherence during visualization, and then having the immense courage to stand calmly in the center of the storm while the universe remodels your life with sledgehammers.
And the ultimate takeaway, the single defining sentence that distills the entire philosophy of these transcripts is this: the frequency you frequent is the reality you will ultimately experience.
The frequency you frequent. That is an incredibly powerful lens to view the world through.
It changes everything.
As we wrap up this exploration today, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final lingering thought to mull over as you go about your day. We talked at length about how the physical reality you are standing in right now, whatever it looks like, is simply a delayed printout. It's the historical receipt of your past mental states. So look very closely at the specific thoughts, anxieties, and feelings you are holding in your mind right in this exact second as you listen to my voice. What kind of world are you hitting print on for tomorrow? Keep your mind balancer on high alert, be selfishly healthy, and we'll catch you on the next one.